Our first guest is an attorney. His name's George Lee, and George is suing the sheriff of Riverside County, a guy named Stan Sniff, having to do with his CCW policy, and he's doing it on behalf of Calguns Foundation. I wanted to have him on the radio today to talk more about it. George, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. So we wanted to start with first off, what's the name of the lawsuit? Who's the defendant?
Plaintiff. The plaintiff in this case, his name is Arie van Nieuwenhuizen, and he's a Dutch citizen, he was born in the Netherlands, and he's been living here in the United States since 1990. And since 1993, he's been a lawful permanent resident of the United States, which is basically a green card holder.
Okay. And now tell us what happened. What does that have to do with the sheriff of Riverside County, and tell us exactly what happened and why the lawsuit?
Sure. This is a very straightforward civil rights case, and the central question is whether lawful permanent residents like Mr. Van Nieuwenhuizen has the right to a CCW if all other qualifications are met. And the answer to that question is a resounding yes. And that's not just our opinion. That's been affirmed by every other court in the country to have faced this issue. This issue has been brought multiple times, including by Second Amendment Foundation, which is one of the clients that I represent in this case. So we're not breaking new ground. This is a very straightforward situation, and every court has agreed that if you are here legally and lawfully, and you are a lawful permanent resident, you really can't be denied the right to carry if your state allows you to do that.
And how do you know? How do you know that it's his status, his citizenship status, that is preventing him from getting a CCW?
Sure. The Riverside Sheriff's policy states that you need to have a birth certificate or proof of your naturalization. And so Arie, we'll call him Arie because it's probably easier for us to refer him to as Arie, called the Riverside Sheriff to start the process, which is, they say it's the first step, is to call and make an appointment. And he was told at that time that you need to be a U.S. citizen to even apply for CCW. So that's how we got there.
So he couldn't even apply. He tried to apply and couldn't even get that far in the process.
He doesn't even get that far because they say you have to be a U.S. citizen to even apply, and you need a proof of citizenship basically in order to even apply. So I guess that answers that question as to whether or not he's eligible.
It's pretty clear. Now, how has I have my opinions, and I've heard a bunch of opinions, but in your opinion, how would you say Sheriff Sniff's CCW policies have been while he's been in office?
Well, I can't speak to his policies because this lawsuit is really designed to do one thing, is that's to remedy one bad policy that he has. Now, like you, I've heard that he's generally permissive and liberal on issuing CCWs, and if that's the case, that he's to be applauded for that. But so this isn't any kind of reflection on Stan Sniff or a reflection on him as a person. I'm sure he's a fine person, but this is solely about remedying a bad policy, and this is a bad policy.
I've actually heard that his policies aren't all that great. They're okay. They're certainly better than L.A. County. But I've heard that for a while there were 2-year backlogs, it was really kind of a good old boy system. And that it wasn't all that great. It was okay, but it wasn't all that great.
I've heard those things too, but honestly, that doesn't really matter.
That's got nothing to do with your case.
Listen, if he likes to tout having a 98% approval rate for CCW applications, that's great. But we think he could do better. And in fact, if you don't let a sizable number of people apply in the first place, I don't know that's any kind of statistic that means anything.
Yeah,
so we think that he could do better.
If you don't let people apply, then you're going to have a pretty high percentage when it comes to your approval rate.
Hey, I have a quick question for you. Can your client vote?
he cannot vote. No, he is. That is one of the things that you can't do as a non-citizen, and that is vote, serve on a jury, and several other things that are sort of like political rights. And so that completely makes sense. He can't hold certain high offices, and so that's fine. But we're talking about something that's a fundamental constitutional right that I don't think you can just as easily deny somebody that based on their citizenship.
Okay, and clarify something for me, if you will. So there's a green card status for people, and then there's a naturalized citizen. Which one is he?
Well, he's a green card holder, which is a lawful permanent resident holder. Okay. And a naturalized citizen is somebody who comes to the United States and goes through the citizenship process.
Okay.
And I have to point out that that there's a minimum 5-year waiting period for you to even live here in the country before you can become a citizen. So
well, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think, we all agree that the Second Amendment protects a natural right, and that, you don't have to be a citizen to have a natural right. Natural rights are natural. They're not given to you by the government, for sure. And I've actually seen quotes by Sheriff Sniff where he describes a CCW as a privilege, rather than describing, carrying concealed as something that,
yeah.
you never defend yourself.
We obviously we disagree that it's a privilege in any sense. And we point out, and I think everyone that on our side of the equation agrees, that the Second Amendment doesn't grant us any kind of right to carry a firearm or to own a firearm. It guarantees a right that's pre-existing, and that's a human right. Basically, as Heller points out, it's rooted in the right of self-defense, which is basic to everyone. So you can't say that the Second Amendment protects a fundamental right, and at the same time say, well, but
only for citizens.
Exactly.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Now, listen, this sounds pretty fundamental to the Second Amendment. I know your work, and I know the work of Calguns Foundation. You guys are rock solid, unapologetic when it comes to the Second Amendment. And I got to bring this up. A few days ago, CRPA, California Rifle and Pistol Association, described you guys as a fake Second Amendment case and a fake Second Amendment organization. Could you respond to that?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that we would get that kind of criticism, but it's misguided. And listen, we appreciate that they feel obligated to protect their friends, and they endorsed Sheriff Sniff, and so they feel they need to protect him, and so we appreciate that. It's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, people's rights and the Constitution is more important than political alliances or political friendships. And to say that we're not that the organizations I represent are not, the true gun rights organizations is just totally misguided. You hear that kind of criticism, by the way, coming our way, but you never hear us criticizing them. And so why is that?
Yeah, I agree.
Someone just doesn't like that someone else is occupying this space. And that's unfortunate, because there's a lot of common ground that we can work together on. And
there's a lot of work that needs to get done. I'm under the impression that it's gun owners against elected officials who are trying to take away your Second Amendment right. I can't believe that they'd side with the official on this. But thank you very much for what you're doing. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I hope you win your case. Thank you, George.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, George.
All right, folks. Hey, we're going to take a small break. Mr. Dillon at Gatsky Dillon and Balance LLP. How you doing, bud?
I'm good. How are you guys?
So what are you doing today? Tell the truth.
Well, first I got to correct you a little bit. That the Cali Key, great little product, it doesn't actually make your guns featureless. It allows you to keep all your features, but it converts your semi-automatic to a manual bolt-action rifle. You can keep all your features, and you don't get into trouble. So
thanks for keeping me out of jail.
I nitpick you on that one.
Thanks for keeping me. Thanks for keeping me out of jail.
Of course. All right. So I actually did want to jump on the back, George Lee and his case against the Sheriff Sniff in Riverside. I wanted to kind of give a third-party perspective on this, because I'm not affiliated with the case in any way, but I was told about it as soon as it happened, and to be honest, I'm actually a fan of this, and I'll tell you, there's some very specific reasons why. George did a really good job summarizing that case and what they're trying to do there. But I wanted to highlight some of the things that have been said from Sheriff Sniff as a response to this lawsuit. He's outlined, the Second Amendment Foundation, Madison Society, and Firearms Policy Coalition as extremist groups that want permits to be handed out like popcorn on the corner of the streets. And the funniest part is in no way, shape, or form does this case want anything like that. They simply want a man to be able to apply for and get a concealed weapons permit because he is a lawful resident of the United States. No one's demanding that the sheriff just start throwing CCW permits out his window as he drives to work every morning. So, but one of the biggest things is there was a quote in an article I read where he was talking about the Riverside Sheriff's sound public policy that we carefully are screening all individuals applying to carry on their person a hidden loaded handgun in our public areas. And the part to pay attention is, he says, we're carefully screening all individuals. Well, it's very clear that they're not. They refuse to even accept Ari's application for a permit. And, frankly, they should have accepted it. It seems from the background that's been given on him, he should have at the very least been considered. And that's one of the big problems that we have when we have these undefined subjective standards of who can get a concealed carry permit in California. It's based off of the head sheriff in each county, and they all have their different opinions, and it just really makes for a muddled up system. It's not right. And George also hints on this, our Constitution, it's all about negative rights. When we talk about negative rights, those rights are worded as in the government may not do this. The government cannot take this from you. They may not keep you from bearing arms. They may not search your home without due process and warrants. These are negative rights. They're not positive rights. The Constitution did not grant us certain rights. They just codified the rights that were already existing. And I think those are really important ideals that people need to pay attention to when they're considering cases like this.
John, I think that's an excellent point that, no one's asking Sheriff Sniff to change his policies or change his standards.
Just do it.
Just apply it. Right. Apply it to people who have the natural right to bear arms and stop pretending that it's some kind of privilege. And
but didn't we have the same problem here in San Diego?
Well, yeah. Kind of.
I mean, they must have went to the same high school together.
Yeah, but you have Ari, he's legally able to purchase and own firearms. So why wouldn't he be able to apply to get a concealed carry permit? He would still have to meet all the standards. He'd still have to do the training, just like everyone else. He's not asking for special treatment. He's quite frankly asking to be treated equally, and that's it.
Right.
It's not a crazy ideal. It really isn't.
Well, I got a twist. It just came to me. Think about this, John, because you know how, the other side always wants to take everything away and do what have you. Well, why not pitch it to them this way? If you want to keep track of all of us people that own guns, then let us all have CCWs. That way you background us to death, and as long as we qualify, guess what? Now you have all our information. You don't have to worry about it anymore.
Well, the problem is with that in California, they already do. Every gun owner registers their firearm to their name upon purchase.
Right.
The background checks are done with both dealer and private party sales, all transfers. So, it's not like they're getting any more information from, these people when they're applying for CCWs. But, it's the right to bear arms, to keep and bear arms, and it's for the people. It's not for the special people. It's not for the people that we deem worthy. It's for the people. It's society. It's the public.
Well, then,
if you want that,
then with that thought, then every time you buy a weapon and you get all the background check, then you should automatically get a CCW.
Well, you should be able to opt in to apply for it in the same paperwork. That'd be great.
So where's there again? And I will say it again, and I will say it on every show. If you don't want me to have a CCW, if you want to take my guns away, I'll do it once you tell me how you're going to eradicate the guns from the criminals. Long as you can do that, then I'm listening.
Yeah, and to be quite frank, if people want to consider this a political ploy or, some political tactic, there's a very simple, quick, and easy fix to this that doesn't require the sheriff to defend himself in court. Change his policy, allow legal residents of this country to apply for CCW.
Bingo.
Once you do that, you're done. That's it.
Well, even if it is...
I just had to throw in my 2 cents there.
No, that was really valuable, John. I really appreciate it. But let's say it is a political ploy. Good. We need to start doing more political ploys on people that are not respecting our Second Amendment rights.
Thank you. Finally.
Yeah, there's really nothing wrong with this case that I see. And, if you want to consider me an extremist for supporting it, fine by me. I don't think following the Constitution is a very extreme point of view.
Now, sign us up. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Hey, folks, if you ever need a lawyer when it comes to your gun ownership, cafirearmslaw.com, cafirearmslaw.com. And if you don't have a computer, 760-431-9501. You will get John Dillon, and he will take care of you like family. Make sure you tell him you heard it right here on FM 96.1 AM 1170, The Answer, because we would appreciate it. All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Without someone doing something about it, it's not going to get any better.